Okay, we seem to be recording. Welcome everybody to Living Brightly, led by my great friend, Kat Haber, and a couple of new friends who Kat will tell you about. So I'm going to be fairly silent and turn it over to Kat.
He thinks he's going to be fairly silent. We'll see. It's such a great honor, Jim. Thank you for including me in this important World Unity Week session. Today I have with me two of my dear spiritual grounding friends, Yael and Kuyuk. And before we get started, I'd just like to say welcome to all of you for wherever you are joining us from. Today, I am joining you from the land of the Potawatomi, whose lands were ceded in a conflict between the French and the British. And so I guess I would just invite each one of us at this point to say, as Yael has so often invited us to do, to say where you are born and where are you zooming in from. So I am born here and I am zooming in from here now. So Yael, would you like to please say something? Oh, unmute yourself.
Shalom, עצמי האחרותים. Hello, my other selves. I'm Israeli. My motherland is Israel, the land of milk and honey and conflict. And right now I live in Alaska with the men of my heart, Ilarian Kuyach Markuliev, and we are in Homer, which is on Kinaitze land.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Kuyuk?
Angwan, Kalamechamna Kalam Kasuva, Tingunangan Way, Unanganasokta Kuyach, Kawalangan Unangan Way. I said, hello, my other self, which is the way our people greet each other every day. And I said, the morning tastes good, which is another way we say good morning. And I said, my traditional name is Kuyach, which means like an arm extending out from the body, a carrier of ancient knowledge into modern times, a messenger. I was given that name at 4 years old by the last Kuyach that was left alive at that time. He gave me that name at 4 years old. Now I'm living the legacy of my name. And I come from a people who have been out in the Bering Sea for over 10,000 years, and we're still there. I was the last in the last generation that had a traditional upbringing.
Thank you so much for joining us today. And I'll invite the other two men who are joining us. Let's start with a new face. Welcome, Steve Kent. We are announcing who we are by saying where we have come from and where we are zooming in from today, and anything else you feel is important for us to know about you.
Sure, thank you. I'm one of the Sacred Earth activism team. I've been joined in a few of these earlier on. I'm from Derbyshire in England, which is where I'm zooming in from, and it just sounded really interesting, the session here, so I thought I'll see what's happening.
Thank you so much for joining us. And
Thank
my
you.
dear friend, Jim Grey Wolf Petruzzi.
Hi, everybody. Hope the Shugmanatu Tanka Metakwiyase, all my relations. So this is my family of the moment, and I'm very pleased to be here. I am a mixed blood. I'm Romani Gypsy, primarily by birth. My grandmother, a medicine woman in northern Italy and southern Switzerland. And I am part Native American, so I'm a member of the United Lenape tribe out of Kentucky, a true mongrel. And I like it that way. It's interesting as I listen to Kat, I'm currently in Pennsylvania, very close to where I was born and raised, and I haven't been back here until 2 years ago when I came back to help my mother out. I move around a lot wherever spirit moves me. Yeah, I get involved in a lot of things. I was really looking forward to this. We had an amazing session with the Kogi this morning. Steve was there. Fascinating. I think I'll just put this in here before we start, Kath. For me, two of the main teachings they left with us, one, they were very clear. There's a lot of sacred spaces out there all over the place. We have no idea. We may walk by them each day and not be aware of what they are. Or we may feel them and think, oh, I feel something. So all those places are there. So from them, it's like protect what you can, but know they're everywhere. The other one is my dog came to help on this. The other one is to paraphrase them, I think, listen to the animals, listen to the insects. They will get through this time. They always do. If we listen to them, if we follow them, what they're doing, mimic what they're doing in a good way, we'll get through the easiest way as well. So that is a welcome blessing. And I just want to, Steve, I'm really glad you're here and really honor and respect what you guys are doing around Stonehenge.
Yeah, thank you. There's, the court case about the tunnel is actually happening now in London.
Wow.
Yesterday, today, and tomorrow about deciding whether they're going to allow this tunnel to be built, the road under Stonehenge, and the road expanded and so on. There's a lot of protest, different people. So we're hoping that by the end of tomorrow, the judge says it's not lawful and it'll be stopped. So, you know, any thoughts and wishes on that would be great.
Beautiful. Well, certainly there are ravages happening everywhere. And I have recently declared that I'm removing the word fight from my vocabulary. I feel in this moment, it is for us to respond as deeply and as authentically as possible. So the presentation I was going to give on how to take action on climate, I feel is superficial compared to an open, honest dialogue that we could, the five of us, enjoy right now about what is next for us to do and how we might collaborate and co-create that more peaceful life on Earth for humans. So with that in mind, recently we were raising some resources for the Yawanawa Rainforest Tribe. And after he delivers a message, he always blows out into the space. And I'm wondering if that might be a good way for us to all begin together with just one grand exhale, so we could clear the space and just be in this moment together. Are you okay with that? Okay, let's do that then. And I invite whomever wishes to speak in this moment to have your voice be heard.
I want to say that whenever I am now joining more and more gatherings here in America alongside my man, and it always or often begins with asking, whose land are you on? And that always lands on me as someone from the Middle East. in a very different way, because for us, the very question of whose land are you on is explosive in itself. And it makes me also think about how my land, my motherland, is considered the Holy Land, and how there is so much bloodshed there for so many generations. And it is so strange to me always that we all love the same piece of land. And instead of parenting it together as the thing we cherish and want to nourish together in different ways, we are fighting over whose it is and trying to get the other side out or confine, or it doesn't, for me, that's a very kind of masculine way of looking at things, where it's like a sperm consciousness. The resources are limited. If they get it, if he gets it, I don't get it, and then I die. Where there is a feminine side that we all so often forget, that knows abundance and extension, and that which allows, with some discomfort, but allows that expansion to fully accept an other self, which is when Queer says my other self. For me, that was the first time I heard something I only felt when I was pregnant and gave birth. And it became a truth that I was always told is dumb, delusional, dangerous to treat an other as my other self, because in my country, often when you treat someone like their other self and they think they're your enemy, you're doing something very dangerous for yourself. And so I was always told that naive side of me is actually delusional. And only when I became awake by femininity that was manifesting itself through me when I gave birth, only then did I start realizing things that I then heard Queer talk about, which is, I think, why we're married.
Yeah, that is beautifully said. Thank you. This squabble over land, which none of us own anyway, has fascinated me since I was a child. And there's a Native American quote, which most of the tribes I know claim, but it doesn't matter where it came from. We cannot own the land. We do not inherit the land from our ancestors. We borrow it from our children. And I think that's how it needs to be looked at. You know, we put up fences, we put up walls, we put guards around our land. It's not our land. I live on the Earth Mother's land. I don't live on anybody else's land. And I don't own the land that I'm a protector of or caretaker of here either.
And yet, if we don't have ownership over a place, what happens to it? In the way in which the world is built right now, if the Yawanawa were not holding protection for that place, it could very easily be denuded. It could be stripped of the plants, and it could be treated like a store for resource extractors to come in and take everything from the land. So how do we live in a place and care for it without owning it? Where's the spirit? How do we reconstruct? How do we have an economology, an economy that is in a respectful, balanced ecology?
I think we can protect it without owning it. That's a big thing. I've been part of a lot of places, and I don't feel like it's part of Standing Rock. But nobody owns Standing Rock. The tribe doesn't own Standing Rock. They recognize that that's land that they are to protect. And so, and the various cultures down in the Amazon right now. I think if you really talk to them, they would tell you the same thing. We're here to protect it. We live here. It's our home, but we don't own it. It's
Mhm,
when we take that step into, I own this, it's mine. And then the conflict starts. You know,
mhm.
our sister there is in, boy, probably the hottest place on the planet and has been for way too long. And you said, Kat, as things are now, absolutely right. And they have to change. Everything has to change if we want to be here, we two-leggeds.
So this is our opportunity. How do we bridge from where we are now to where we want to be, to where we were thousands of years ago, where humans moved when they used up the soil and the trees and the animals, where things were allowed to roam as they needed. Now, with approaching 8 billion humans on the planet, how do we make this transition?
Mm.
I work for a group of elders called the Wisdom Weavers of the World. They are elders from all over the world. And we met in Kauai for the first time to answer two questions. What is the state of the world as they see it now? And what must we be doing now? And of course, with land, you know, indigenous people, we understand that we belong to the land. The land doesn't belong to us. But we launched, the elders wanted us to get their messages to the world. And so we're using social media, and we launched it with a 14-minute film that can be seen on www.wisdomweavers.world. And it was launched by Reuters and seen by 80,000 plus people and translated into 15 different languages. The core message is that humans, people of good heart, are focused on that which we want to stop. And, you know, be it political corruption, the gross violation of women, refugees, wars, all these kinds of things. Good people are pouring their focus on stopping these things. And the elders say we are energy beings, and we are unaware of how and what our energy produces. That when we choose to focus on that which we want to stop, our mental, physical, and spiritual energies goes into that and makes it bigger. We may have temporary successes, but in the long term, it gets bigger. That they say that instead we should focus on that which we want to see in the world without reaction to anything. And that, yeah, there are things that are happening that we need to stop, but do not pour our mental, physical, and spiritual energies into that. And that because we are operating from the mind, not the heart, that we have the confusion that we have around the world, the daunting issues that we have now. Traditionally, the heart used to tell the mind what to do, and the mind's job is to implement that which your heart is telling you. Now it's reversed. And we don't recognize this reversal. But what is necessary, they say, is for us to drop out of the mind, go to the heart, and do what your heart is telling you to do. And that the mind, you know, the Tibetans, the Dalai Lama's followers call it the monkey mind. It is a mind that goes everywhere. And this is where we have confusion and all these things that are related to the mind. What they say is that we need to just, when the monkey mind starts to happen, we need to just watch it like passing clouds, without any judgment, without any kind of criticism, just watch it go by. Instead, we must operate from the heart, and the heart has got, for each of us individually on planet Mother Earth right now, our hearts contain a gift that we have to offer the world right now. And that this gift, for this reason, there are no more gurus. Every one of us are gurus now. We have the answers inside of us, but we're looking outside for the answers. So the state-of-the-art technology, state-of-the-art thinking, this is nothing but the old regurgitated as new. And we need to recognize this. And going to the heart, I mean, the Hopi and Maori, they say, let go of the sides of the riverbank, move toward the center, find those who've done the same and celebrate. What that means is letting go of the sides of the riverbank means letting go of all human attachments. Be it fear, be it the desire to plan, all these kinds of things that the mind concocts up, and that the heart will provide you with the answers. It'll guide you impeccably and that it is not a question about whether or not Mother Earth is going to survive. She survived for billions of years. She's going to survive for billions more. It's a question about whether or not we humans are going to survive, and depends on whether or not we recognize that we need to go according to the original instructions to our heart and to the womb for the answers to what we must do now. And that the elders are saying the most unselfish thing you can do is to heal yourself. That is the most unselfish thing you can do right now, is heal yourself. All the traumas that we have suffered, and no human is without trauma of some kind. That we need to process this trauma, let it go, and we can be in the heart. Yeah, what the Hopi Maori said is that letting go inside the riverbank means letting go of all the human attachments. Move towards the center means moving towards your proverbial heart center and the center of the river of life, because it knows where it's going. We don't. And find those who've done the same means finding those who have had the courage to jump like you did, to let go of all human attachments. According to these elders, that is going to be the new definition of tribe. The old definition is going to go by the wayside.
So I am so moved by what you are saying, Kuhyuk, especially as we are using even this piece of technology, zooming Alaska with Pennsylvania, with Wisconsin, with the UK right now. We are finding like-hearteds in the most obscure corners. And for that, I'm grateful that we're no longer constrained by our geographic location to find the tribe that resonates with what we next need to do.
Yeah. You're saying a lot of things that I've said for a lot of years. I wonder if we had the same elders. And the river piece, yes, and I've heard it that way. The other way that some of the tribes, and as I was taught, when we come to the banks of the river, some people turn away and go back off the trail. Some people jump in, but they can't let go of the bank. They just hold on to the bank. And some people let go, but they can only go out a little way and then they come back. Those who are ready let go and move to the middle and join with everyone there. And that's how we go ahead. That's so almost the same intent, I suppose.
Jim, of course, you will be bringing in the sounds of the animals with you.
Of course. There's an eagle on the tree right outside.
Beautiful.
Yeah, here in Homer, Alaska, we have whooping cranes that walk by every day. We have moose that come through our yard pretty frequently. We've got fish, salmon jumping out in the lagoon. I mean, we got eagles galore. It's quite an amazing place.
I am so glad that you are there. I cannot wait to give you both big hugs. So as we listen to the animals and notice them, I feel like we should also recognize that we have gone silent with many of them. And there's a piece of me that feels like grieving is a part of what we also next need to do. And I guess maybe I would just invite each of us to say kind of where we are in that process as we learn to respond to our personal traumas. Would you like to begin, Yael?
Actually, it's such a big question that so much is coming in. I want another moment, please.
Of course.
Can you state it again, Kat?
Yeah, Kuyuk mentioned that what we most need to do next is to heal our own traumas. And I feel as I am noticing silence of birds that used to be here, of fish, of all kinds of marine mammals, of land animals, we are losing many of the voices. And so I'm wondering if each of us would be willing to say something about where we are in our own personal grieving in with the idea of how can we heal and process our own traumas in this moment. Let me begin. There's a part of silence that is sweet and gorgeous and delicious. There's also a part of the silence that makes me miss those, the chirps and all the lovely play that I used to have as a girl in this place in my home. And so as I am probably preparing to let go of my father soon, my own trauma is there's a piece of me that wants to be both in the past and in the future. And I just know that I need to remain in this moment. So with that, I'll just be with my silence.
Yeah, from the elders that I work with, they said, you know, we create the injuries that we have made for ourselves and for all other sentient beings. That we humans have done this. And it's because of the traumas. And that what we need to do is recognize how these traumas have operated in the outer world in order to know what we must do, which is to be in ourselves, that we have left our hearts. And as soon as we left our hearts, it's easy for us to separate from ourselves and from others and from Mother Earth and all creation. And that we go into guilt, shame, remorse, anger, rage, jealousy, all these things that are the past, and fear, which is projection into the future. Every place except the proverbial now. And I think that, well, I think it was Deepak Chopra that said, God can only be found in the silence between one's thoughts. That place of silence is where we are trying to fill in with everything on the external. And so we're used to noise. And, you know, I go to a restaurant, an American restaurant here, and there's just so much talk that I, you know, you can't hear yourself say anything. You have to holler. And I feel like, well, you know, what's happening here? What's happening, one of the things that's happening is that we are eating food from Mother Earth that Mother Earth is providing. And we don't recognize that. We don't contemplate that when we eat. That's why most Native people, you know, when they get together in tradition, they eat in silence. And silence is something that is so rare these days anywhere around the world. And we call, you know, we have earth-based pace in Alaska. That's what the Native peoples call the earth-based pace, which is a pace that is slow. We walk slow, we talk slow, we act slow, because we need to slow down in order to hear Mother Earth. We are now accelerating so fast that we can no longer hear what Mother Earth is saying. Now, Mother Earth, for example, is the reason that this pandemic, she has released this pandemic. If you recall the very first part of the pandemic around the world, people were no longer going where they usually go. And so animals were showing up everywhere. And you could see the Himalayas from India for the first time in 30 years. And the ozone layer above the Arctic actually healed. This is just in months. This is Mother Earth showing us how quickly she can heal if we slow down and understand what we're doing. Mother Earth doesn't need healing. She needs for us to remember what our niche is. We're the only species on Earth that doesn't know what their niche is. And so the answer to the elders is pretty simple for these most complex issues. And healing trauma, you know, we are the most traumatized people in history. You know, you had the Crusades, the Inquisition, the internecine warfare between countries, World War I, World War II, Korean conflict, Korean War, Vietnam War, Gulf War, I mean, all these wars. And they created a whole host of traumatized people who came back and started families, and their patterns were transferred to every generation until it's here with us today. And we need to understand this, that this is an inherited cross-generational traumas that we are needing to clean out. And one of the best ways to clean out is to gather together and do ceremony. As much as people don't do ceremony, we need to do ceremony. And we need to respect all the sacred sites that are in the world that are there for a purpose. The Mother Earth has got, you know, we've all heard of chakras. She has chakras like we do. And that around the world, there are points of contact that are needed for the health of Mother Earth. And she is helping us, by the way. Her vibration is going up. And as it goes up, our bodies, which are not separate from Mother Earth, are responding in that it's hitting the heaviest places in our bodies and pulling them to the surface for us to deal with, to heal.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. These things that are now coming to the surface, and many of us have been taught this for years, are coming to the surface so we can heal them. It's hard to heal what you cannot see or sense or feel. And so even the hate, all the hate that's now coming to the surface, that's not a bad thing, even though it feels like it. We can together start to heal these things because, I mean, you're right. Until we deal with some of those things, how can we grow? How can we evolve spiritually or any other way if we still have that weight tied around our feet? So it is something to work on. For years, I've worked with my past lives, trying to put them in order. As I was taught, you know, we have to deal with some of those past ills because they do affect us, and we don't want to keep passing them down. For me, it's the, you know, the 7 generations forward I keep thinking about. And I want them 7 generations now to look back and say, wow, thank you so much, ancestors, for what you did. We're still here. We're in a cleaner world thanks to you, and not, damn you, ancestors. Why did you do this? And it's our choice. We can do either. I don't think we can do either effectively as we approach 8 billion people. This planet was not set up to sustain that, not in any way. But I think that's something that the Earth Mother will take care of. I mean, we're already starting to see it. And I don't mean that in a mean or a negative way. It's just a statement of fact. Because she will heal. You're right. She was never. I keep watching all these people running around. We've got to save the planet. We've got to heal the planet. No, we don't. You know, look to yourself. Are you going to be here? 7 generations? Is one generation going to be here if we don't act soon? And circles like this, because it's not all about acting and standing up and protesting, which is important to spread the word, but it's so much more. Prayer is important, ceremony, education. I think we need that package in order to move ahead.
I'd like to welcome Geraldine and Grace. It's lovely to have more women in this circle.
I'm glad to be here. Sorry to be joining late. I taught school for 45 years. And one of the things I taught was Greek and Roman mythology. And one of the books that I'm reading right now is called Our Sacred Ancestors, and the graces given to them. And it used to be that Mother Goddess was the goddess until mankind discovered that they had something to do with procreation. And I remember one of the books I used with the kids so vividly, there was a picture of Father God up here sprinkling down his sperm, so to speak, and Mother Goddess down here ready to receive it so as to create new life. But it was a combination of both, Mother and Father. And when God is kept in a cage of being only male, then that's when men decided to become gods. And we need to get away with that. I know one of the images I used to use with my children, because so many of them, I happened to be blessed with a father who was very loving. My brothers were 8, 9, and 10 when I was born, and my father spoiled me rotten. And if you use only, I discovered very early on in teaching that for some children, they don't even know who their father is, or they've had bad experiences with their father. And if that's the only image you can give to them of God, then they're at a disadvantage from the get-go. So I talked about Mother God, but my favorite was Grandmother God, because for most children today, especially, that's their first experience of learning about God's no strings attached love. And our Mother Earth, when we reach down to touch her and touch her breast and love her and thank her for all that she gives us, and try to do our small part of helping to continue that growth and change that she gives us. We can't do it all, but we can each do our own small part. But that book's title is called Ancestral Grace. And it talks about how even before man was here, animals and plant life was here. And so many of the ancient people consider them their ancestors because they were here first.
Thank you, Grace.
Now, when Grace says our stories go back to when we had like a pendulum going back and forth between masculine imbalance and feminine imbalance. And it may have started, according to our stories, about 4,000 to 6,000 years ago.
It's longer than that.
Yeah, well,
Way back, according
obviously.
Yeah.
But the masculine imbalance portion was 4,000 to 6,000 years ago. And we're still in that swing of the pendulum. We have, according to the elders, a chance to bring the swing back into dead center. And
balance.
Yeah. And that what we have done, is when we shifted to that masculine imbalance, we have what we call original instructions. All the Native people understand this. And these original instructions were not invented by us. It was given to us. And we call it the womb at the center of the universe, where the womb was the center of the creation and creativity, and the identical field of energy is in every woman. This is why originally every woman was considered sacred. And then that pendulum swung, and we go to violation of goddess cultures, of women, of healers, of Mother Earth-based cultures. Everything feminine was smashed, and it's still being done that way. And that this is something that organized religions don't want to hear, that we have a masculine God. And that what you say is absolutely true, that the masculine and the feminine were together, not separated in duality or polarity, but we're unified. And humankind cannot exist until we restore that balance.
And for me, the arrogance of the Western church when they went into native lands to say they were bringing God to those people. God was already there. They already knew God instinctively. We're all born, created with that knowledge that's already there. And for them to say, but it has to be our way, it's just not the way it happens. God's already been there.
Grace,
That's so true, Grace.
Is there a piece of your personal grieving that you would like to share with us in this moment?
My personal grieving, I happen to be Roman Catholic, and my personal grieving is that our hierarchy has fallen to the politics of countercultural that's going on right now. And they think they have the right to say, God said, only these people can come to the table. And that's not what God said. Everybody is welcome. I happen to be blessed to belong to a parish that has people from 45 different countries there. We have a big immigration center, a big LGBT community plus. And our pastor is being forced into retirement by our bishop. He says it's not because of his liberal leanings, it's because of his age. He's just going to be 73. And we know he's lying to us. So that's my grief right now, that the church that I grew up in, there are so many things that even at the age of 7, I questioned and thought, that can't be right. And as I grow older, at the age of 78, I realize the Spirit speaks to all of us. We're all worthy to come to the table. Jesus said, y'all come. We are all perfectly imperfect made, so that we know who our dependence is. We all have the same source. And that source wants us to treat the Mother Earth, because all of creation was created by that same energy.
Yeah, I want to go back to the masculine, feminine for a minute. I've lived with and learned from elders from a lot of different cultures, my own cultures, but a lot of them. One of the key elements from each one, and certainly the primary element from my main teacher, who was Lakota, was that, of course, sharing the story as you did, this is in each earth, it shifted back and forth between male and female. And one would control and then it would collapse because it can't work that way. But the teaching is that this time we're either going to live or die based on what we do now. And we have to. Number one priority is masculine and feminine, male and female must come together, must be equals, must be in harmony, must be in balance, or it would fail again. And right, we'd swing back off to the sides again. So to me, that's critical. And whatever it takes to get there is what we need to do. I'm not going to go into the religion thing because that'll take it on a whole different track. But I started to be, except that I started to be, I was born, well, I was Italian on the East Coast. My grandmother immigrated here. I had no choice, I was Catholic by default. But I quickly saw that religion wasn't for me. And until I found a spiritual road.
Spirituality.
Yeah. And I'm not, I'm not condemning all, there's some good points as well in religion. But we look what they've done, and I'm just, so my phone just binged, and a friend sent me that they just found another 700 graves up in Canada. And again, it's some of this horror, some of this hate coming to the surface, but it's, we have to recognize what was done so we can put it away. We saw this at Standing Rock. The day that the veterans came and apologized, I was in tears. I was there and I was crying. And most people there were crying. And it seems, why do we have to do that? It's in the past. Because we want it to be in the past and finally buried in a good way. So yeah, this is a great, I didn't know we were going here, Kat, but this is awesome.
Well, I have a new ministry that's kind of been dumped on me. I have this little bag that I bought at the dollar store that says, you make the world a better place just by being in it. And while I've been doing all this Zooming, I've been making origami peace birds, and they actually look like they're flying. You can hold them a certain place, pull their tail, and the wings flap. And I've been taking them out into the marketplace. And my heart hurts each time I ask a young person to read that message on the bag, and ask them, when's the last time someone told them that? And they said, no one's ever told me that. And I said, but we're each sent here for a purpose with the gifts we need to make that purpose happen. Our life's work is to, see how we can do that each day. I'm 78 and I'm still working on it, but it just hurts my heart. I was at the giant supermarket and the 2 young Black men were standing there, and I talked to them. I knew they were my brothers. We're all one family. And I went on about my way and I went back to the milk counter and I'm I have the door open and all of a sudden somebody pulls the door and I look and it's one of these young men. He said, Miss, I just had to tell you that message was so powerful to me. I needed to hear that. I've been trying to make the world a better place, but I don't know how to do it. And I offered him one of these peace birds. And I said, do you think your friend would like one? So he said, sure. So he took one and I went on about my way and I didn't get very far. And I saw him talking to this other young man and he said, and she said this and you're supposed to, and he said, oh, there she is there. The second young man said to me, I'm going through the store. And he starts walking and he says, peace, peace, peace. Trying to get peace energy out all around the world. So it's just little things like this. We can't do it all, but we can each find ways to use our gifts to do our little bit to recreate.
Thank you so much for that, Grace. I'd like Yael, if you're ready now, to share.
Yes, thank you everybody for speaking my heart, really. It's like looking in different mirrors. And I'm an educator. I'm a children's person. I think because many times I felt that's where truth is. The grown-up world was, very harmful and harmed. And kids are coming in very angry, disappointed, depressed. They are very upset with what they're inheriting. And they're right, because this is not a good thing we're living behind right now. But I realized that a part of the grieving, our elder Rita Blumenstein says, we need to unburden our heart to speak our truth freely and honestly, and to let go. I can't let go of a butterfly that I never held, to let go of something, we first need to feel it, to acknowledge it. So when we are letting go, wanting to let go of pain, of misery, of hate, we need to first recognize that we are holding it before we can let go. And I think a big part, there's so much coming in, I'll try to make sense. The duality of either or, life or death, is something, again, that I learned when I was pregnant. And then when I gave birth, it was life and death. Death is a part of life. Everything that lives, this moment is alive because the next moment is going to outlive it. The moment before just died, but this moment is emerging. And without that death, we would not have life. And when I'm getting to know more about hunter-gatherers culture through Kuyach, I realized with them, when they kill an animal, it's not to get it extinct or to take in or consume it in the way that just for their own good, but it's this circle of life. So with the death of the animal, it provides life for them. And the people of my men are Unangan people, or Aleut as they're called by their oppressors, are the people of the sea lion. And so they eat the sea lion, but they are also the greatest protectors of that species, because without that species living on, our species, their species could not live on. So it's this reciprocal relationship in a much deeper way. And when I gave birth and I felt the pain was so immense, I had no painkillers because I was interested in what's going to happen with this immense pain that I've never gone through. I was like, this is interesting. Take me on. I mean, if it takes me, it was obvious that death was a possibility. And I was like, okay, if it takes me, it takes me. It doesn't matter how many painkillers I will take. This is immense. It's taking me to the edge. But I was so alive, and I realized pain doesn't have to mean suffering. I had immense pain, but it meant that life was coming out of me and through me, and my other self, my girl, emerged out of me at the end of it. And I realized suffering and pain is something we do with the mind. It doesn't have to be that way. And it was so relieving. And when we grieve someone's or something's death, we are actually grieving because of love. Without love, we wouldn't have that grief. When, I don't know, we see a dead cockroach, I don't think we grieve it that much, most of us at least. When a loved one dies, we grieve because of that profound love that we have. And we can't have one without the other, really. There is a potential of grief, of death, when there is love and life. And so, yeah.
There was
And
a,
I think a big part of not turning grief into depression is feeling much like what Grace was reminding us, that we can do something about it. When I speak to children and they bring up all the lies that they're forced into Mother Earth, what we're doing to Mother Earth, even money, why is a plastic fork costing less than a sustainable fork? Is that the real price for the next 7 generations? What will have a bigger price? So why are we pricing it that way now? And the children, they want a toy. We're already getting them to be complicit to this lie, and they feel that. Or why do they have to get something to eat outside, and then they have styrofoam and plastic and this thing that they are now contributing to the pollution that they feel so bad about, because their hearts are still so connected to Earth, to Mother Earth. And so when they feel, and when you are a child, you feel very small and very weak and very young. And what can you do? You're always told, oh, you can't do this. Let me do this for you. Or let me show you how it's done. Or when you grow up, you can do that. They feel that they don't have a way of dealing with it. But if we start with little things, and again, kids learn by example. We can't just tell them to do it. We gotta first do it ourselves. And if we do little things like what Grace said, or like, just looking someone in the eye and really asking, how are you? Or as Pat McCabe, Woman Stands Shining, says, your joy matters. We can help each other bring our gifts. And from that, I don't know where it will go, because we're not there yet. It's like the womb. I didn't know what amazing person was going to come out of my womb. I only knew the old. But yeah, let's give way to a new way.
Vale, I've always been a big fan of Simon and Garfunkel. I've considered them very prophetic musicians. But one of the songs that they sang was, I Am a Rock. And it says, I am a rock, and a rock feels no pain, and an island knows no one else. And, if you choose to be that way, you might be able to eke by without a whole lot of pain because you just ignore it all. But you're right. In order to grow, we need to be open to the pain and the joy of life, because that's the balance. And we need, and we need to be together. That's important. So I don't want to be a rock. And I don't want to be an island.
And an island never cries,
An island never cries, right?
which is something that the men have been taught for.
Yeah, big boys don't cry.
No.
Why? If you have
Mhm.
something that's really hurting you, why not cry? You gotta be a big man. No, you don't. You're
So,
allowed to cry. You're allowed to feel pain.
so Jim, I don't know if we need to stay on a strict hour. Is that,
I think we're good, because I knew, knowing us,
Okay.
Let's see. I'm checking. Nope, we're good.
While Jim is confirming that, I'd like each of us, if there was a message, just one that you could give to the world right now about how we could live brightly. That was the original question about why we are gathered here. And yes, we did go to a dark, deep place of healing our personal traumas, and we spoke about grief. And my inquiry is, how can we allure she-manity, women, to stand strong in this moment so that men have their emotions and women have our courage?
I guess I will start off. You know, the way that I was raised as a child was to watch, listen, and learn. I grew up not asking any questions. And the adult's job is to provide the space for a child to learn, not tell them what to learn, how to learn, or define anything. And in this way, I could expand out to the maximum of my capability without the interference of an adult. Now, today, we do the opposite. We tell them what they must learn and how they must learn. And they're encouraged to ask questions. And this, again, is a product of the mind. And that, you know, when we have a child that's hurt, like Yael is talking about, we're teaching lies, because when the child is hurt, we come to them and we say, it's okay, it's okay. And in the meantime, the child says he's hurt. And so we grow up split, that we wonder whether or not what we're feeling is true. And when we need to encourage the child where they're at. My elders say that the instructor for our people is a 2-year-old child. You watch the 2-year-old child, they are real human beings. And when you can watch them and learn, you might become a real human being. But you know, it's amazing how quickly we lose that, because I talk with young people in schools, and by the time they hit the 6th grade, the light has gone out of their eyes.
Yeah.
And you ask them, how many negative things can you say about yourself? And they'll come up with 20 or 30. And how many good things can you say about yourself? And they might get 3. So what are we doing?
Well, you know, when I'm out in the marketplace and I see parents with children, especially little ones that are in the seat in the cart, I will look to the child. I'll talk to the child and say, I hope mommy and daddy are listening very carefully, because you came to teach them a lot of things. And I hope they're listening. And these little ones who aren't even talking yet, they look at me and they get this little twinkle in their eyes, like they know exactly what I'm saying. And they just giggle. And I look at the parents and I say, probably the most important thing is patience. But, you know, I think if I personally try not to take things personally, and what other people think of me, I need to be true to who I feel I'm being called to be. And it's none of my business what other people think of me. They can think what they want. I'm still going to try. I'm not saying it doesn't hurt at times. It does. But if we can't be true to who we are, then who can we be true to? So for me, it's trying to be true to self and not worrying about what other people think of me, because it's none of my business. My business is to be about doing what I was sent here to do.
That's so true, Grace. You know, I think about when 2 children, like 2-year-old kids, get involved with a fight, they really engage their whole bodies and let it go. And then two minutes later, they're playing together again. You know, that's the genius of a child.
And a child shall lead them.
Geraldine, your silence has been noticed. Would you like to share something?
Yeah, sorry, I am one of life's listeners. Because it's good to listen to people and to understand where they're coming from. And looking at your question and listening about the pendulum that is swinging for centuries between male domination, female domination, and my personal view on these things is about the coming together and almost respecting the differences and the importance that we're all children of the universe. Yeah, male, female, whatever. And to get our courage is to understand our vulnerabilities, whether we're male, female, or whatever. And with the COVID pandemic and everything, it's that understanding of our vulnerability and the fact that we are part of nature. We're no more important, we're everything and nothing, as important as any other species. And I think I'm not sure of the way that we overcome the duality of male and female either, because it's an individual thing. And I do Tai Chi, so it's very much about energy. So whether you're male or female, you could exhibit the male and female attributes of energy. Yeah, so it's going beyond saying, we're a patriarchal work, we're a matriarch, and to blame everything on children who have absent fathers. There's also a need for us as mothers to feel it's okay, in the sense to be kind and be the sacred feminine, which comes to all of us, whether our physical form is male or female. So I don't know what the solution to that is. And I think for me personally, I believe courageousness comes in the vulnerability and the acceptance that we actually need each other, just as we need the water that comes, we need the earth, because for a lot of people, when they find they're in grief or trauma, which could be caused from the sort of human interactions we have, because we've made a sort of quite unnatural world, disconnected from nature, the first thing we do is find solace in nature. You know what I mean? The beauty, the sunsets, when you've been commuting and you've been living on this wheel of bringing in money and all the rest of it, and suddenly, like, maybe you have a job loss, or maybe some reality hits you that is not the most important thing. The thing that heals us is hearing a bird sing, and you identified that earlier, the importance to you of, you want to make sure that that bird song's still there, and I don't know what the solution is. It's lovely to hear you all and hear that you all care that deeply. That's a lovely to have listened to that. So I don't really have much more to say than that. Hope that's okay.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad that you could give voice to how you're feeling right now. Any final thoughts from anyone?
I'd really like to encourage everyone to let their little light shine, to make lots of good trouble. And the best way to do that is by letting your little light shine. We used to think that's a kid's song, but it's pretty profound. This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. In fact, my students made an extra verse. And if the devil doesn't like it, he can sit on a tack. Ouch. Out of the mouths of babes.
I love it. That's wonderful. All right. How can we bring this to a most beautiful close then? Perhaps the way that we began it, with one joyous breath out into the world, letting our lights shine. Thank you each for sharing your heart, for guiding us to be better humans. And until we meet again in the Zoomiverse, may it not be too long.
Could I very quickly share a Central American prayer?
Please.
Our Creator, who is in us here on earth, holy is your name, in the hungry who share their bread and their song. Your kingdom come, which is a generous land that flows with milk and honey. Let us do your will, standing up when all are sitting down, raising our voice when all are silent. You are giving us our daily bread in the song of the bird and the miracle of the maize. Forgive us for keeping silent in the face of injustice and for burying our dreams, for not sharing bread and wine, love, and the land among us now. Please don't let us fall into the temptation of shutting the door through fear, of resigning ourselves to hunger and injustice, or of taking up the same arms as the enemy, but deliver us from all evil. Give us the perseverance and the solidarity to look for love, even if the path has not yet been trodden, even if we fall, so we shall have known your kingdom, which is being built forever and ever. Amen. And a woman too.
Thank you so much, Grace. Beautiful punctuation.
Thank you.
Thank you,
everyone.
Kat.
Blessings
Thank
with your
you,
presence.
Jim. Grey Wolf.
Continue to be
Thank you
blessed
all.
and a
This-
blessing.
Yeah. It's been awesome.
All right, my dear.